Think about the most important decision you've ever made. Go ahead, think about it. I can think of a few, like when I chose which college to attend, and which girl to ask to prom, what job to take after I got my degree, what apartment to live in. See, I can name countless times when it felt like I was standing at a crossroads with a choice to make. See, I hate those moments. Every time I find myself praying intensely, God, make it obvious which way to go. I even try to force other people to make the choice for me. I search and search for the obvious answer. I don't want these choices. I hope and hope that there will be one obviously terrible and one obviously amazing choice. See, in this series called Crux, we've been talking about the crossroad in history where everything changed. The crucifixion of Jesus. So here's the question as we stand at the crossroad. A question that every one of us has to answer for ourselves. See, your parents can't answer it for you. Your distant relatives can't answer it for you. Your friend who brought you here can't answer it for you. So here it is. Are you ready? What do you believe about Jesus? What do you believe about Jesus? See, Jesus was a radical person to everyone who knew him. He said radical things. He performed unbelievable miracles. Let me just name a few. Jesus turned water into wine. He healed two blind guys at one time. He brought a guy back from the dead. He fed 4,000 people with one kid's lunch. He even healed a man with infectious disease. And oh yeah, he walked on water. But he also claimed many things. He claimed that he had never done anything wrong. He said that he was the only way to get to heaven. And he also promised to die and come back to life. But why? Why did Jesus do the things he did? Why did he say the things he said? Who is Jesus, really? See, you aren't the first person to be asked this question. Jesus himself asked his best friends this question. See, one day they were hanging out. He turns to them and he says, "Who do people say I am?" So they gave him a list. Well, some people say that you are this guy, and some people say that you're that guy. But Jesus wasn't interested in what other people had to say. He said, "But who do you say I am?" See, the disciples knew Jesus because of what he had done in their lives. So what about you? What has Jesus done in your life? Has he performed a miracle in your life? What about in the life of a friend? See, for me, I had an experience with Jesus that changed the way that I saw him. See, when I was in 7th grade, my town, we had a huge tornado. This tornado destroyed every area of the town. But for some reason, it didn't touch our school. Not 1 inch of the school was harmed. A miracle to say the least, right? But why? This tragedy in our town and the miracle of the safety of the kids, it brought several people to actually thank God, including myself. For many of my friends, it was that turning point in their belief of God. See, God's miracle was meant to be a crossroads in their life, a pivotal event that would change the way they see God. And the miracles that Jesus performed, they affected the people around him in the very same way. See, they heard him say all these crazy things, and they watched him. They watched him save people, heal people, and change lives. But then they witnessed the most amazing miracle of all, his death and his resurrection. But they were still left wondering and questioning whether Jesus was who he said he was. And one disciple in particular, Thomas, doubted. And even after his friends confirmed that they had seen the resurrected Jesus, Thomas says to them, unless I see the nail marks in his hands and put my finger where the nails were and put my hand into his side, I will not believe. So why was Thomas being so particular about seeing Jesus? It was because he knew that his belief was crucial. If Jesus really was raised from the dead, then he was more than just a regular guy. He was more than just a good teacher, more than just a wise wizard like Gandalf from Lord of the Rings. Thomas knew that if Jesus was raised from the dead, then he must have power over death. If he was raised from the dead, then Jesus was God. So guess what? Thomas gets his wish a week later. And this is over a week after Jesus was crucified, pronounced dead, and placed into the grave. He appears to Thomas. And Scripture tells us that Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." Then he spoke directly to Thomas. "Put your finger here and see my hands. Reach out your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting, Thomas, and believe." Can you imagine? Jesus standing in front of you in the flesh, nail holes in his hands and all, and he's speaking right to you. So what was Thomas's response? He says to him, "My Lord and my God." Did you catch it? It was personal. Thomas knew what was at stake, and he knew that seeing Jesus and feeling the marks of his hands proved his power over death. That Jesus was undeniably who he said he was. He was the Son of God, the Lord of all, and more importantly, the Lord over Thomas. See, believing that Jesus is the Son of God changes everything. It changes your faith. It changes your morals. It changes the whole mission that we're on to help our friends find their way back to God. Everything that we've talked about over the last month, it doesn't matter unless Jesus is who he said he is. In this moment, I'm asking you, just like Jesus asked his disciples, his best friends, what do you believe about Jesus? Not everyone else, you. See, for me, Jesus was always a good guy. He was a wise teacher who showed us how to live. He showed us how to love others, right? But did I really believe that he was the Son of God? I didn't. Until college, Jesus was just a person to me. He was not my Lord and my God. But it took several challenges in my life to realize that Jesus came to me just as he did with Thomas. And he said, "Drew, I died and was raised to life for you, to give you hope, to give you a future." Jesus came to me just like he comes to you. And he shows you that he is who he says he is. But for what reason? Well, it's for us to respond, for us to know him as Lord and believe. So wrestle with this question. Talk it out with your small group leader, with your friend who brought you here, or maybe your parents. But what do you believe about Jesus? See, this decision will change the way that you live. It will change the priorities you set. It will change every one of your relationships. So what do you believe about Jesus? Is he a liar? Is he crazy? Or is he who he says he is? What do you believe about Jesus?